yesterday.
Okay, move in,
That's
Humphrey. As you can tell, we're very good at wine, but not so good at this.
that's okay. I love that you're adventurous enough to try it. It means a lot to me, you guys. Hi, Humphrey. Sue and I chatted yesterday, so I feel like her and I are old friends.
Now, how is that? Is that better?
It's perfect, and we can see the vineyards in the background. It's fantastic.
Exactly. That's what well, we're committing suicide nearly because we're up on our flat roof. So if we forget ourselves, we'll just fall over and that'll be it.
Please don't do that. Please be careful.
Make a good video, wouldn't it?
It would make good viewing, but I'd rather be able to talk to you tomorrow than have a few more followers on the video. So, how are you both today? I want to just kind of talk about nothing for a minute or two until people come back, because I had a few friends on here earlier and they left when I closed to go WhatsApp you. You got good weather though, it seems.
I think it's exactly the same temperature here as it is in New York, because my friend who's in New York at the moment tells me it's 35 degrees.
That is over 100, and it was that yesterday, and I think it's going to get up to like just under 100 today. And I'm in Connecticut, which I don't know if is a little bit cooler or a little bit warmer, but so we're pretty close then. Okay.
Oh, nice.
96 Fahrenheit here.
Yeah, so it's hot, but it's sunny. We've had no rain for a long time, so for the poor old grapes, they're dry.
Yeah. And the roof underneath you is black, so is it extra hot where you're sitting?
No, because we're just in the shade.
Oh, good. Okay. So
if it was
let's
sunny, we would die of heat.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right. So let's just go ahead and start, you guys. Could you introduce yourselves and then tell me your background and how you got into making wine in Bergerac, basically? A little bit of your CV, and then a little bit about how you got in there, and then we'll talk about the estate.
Okay. Well, my background is actually in books. I was in book publishing and book selling, and then I went into politics. And the reason that I got into wine and farming is because I married him. And my name is Sue, by the way, so I'm Sue Temperley, and I married Humphrey, and he was the one who was in farming and really loved to do things with vines and wine.
I was in farming for quite a long time, and I was in local politics as well. And then I was quite ill, and I retired to Devon and did a lot of sailing and things like that. And then I realised actually I wanted to go back to work, do something constructive, and get my hands dirty again. And that's when we fulfilled Sue's dream of retiring to France, and my dream too.
Retiring.
And so it was the hardest working retirement I can ever imagine. And when I've asked by people why did you take up this enterprise, I normally say because I was probably a bit insane, because vineyards are a lot of work and a lot of risk, and but mostly, nearly always, I think that the downsides are worth it for the upsides. The upsides are living in a beautiful place with a beautiful environment, a gorgeous wife, and in an absolutely gorgeous place.
And however bad a day you've had, you've always got lots of lovely wine to drink.
And lots of nice animals and things like that. So it's a very good life. And actually, we've seen that we've been locked down. We were locked down from whenever it was,
beginning of March.
Yeah, for 2 months. And actually, it was very good for our relationship because we were kind of had no.
Was it?
we had no option otherwise, other than the occasional worker who came. And so yeah, we're just moving towards our 21st anniversary on Friday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, and we're going to celebrate a lot because we can now. We can even go away for 2 days, which is like exciting.
Unusual.
But
That's very nice.
I never thought I would be doing this sort of thing now in life, but I have to say I'm pretty happy with it, even on a rainy day in February.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that I do really applaud our decision to go to live in France is that there was a point in 2015 where I went to see a doctor, and the doctor said, go to the cardiologist. The cardiologist I saw in 2 days, and within 3 days I was in hospital being looked at. And I had what I think in America you call the widowmaker artery. Was
Wow.
And it probably wouldn't have been found in the UK. In fact, it's sure it wouldn't have been found in the UK, so I probably would have been dead.
Yeah, but
Wow,
do you know the best thing about this? When he went for his follow-up appointment to the cardiologist and said, I don't like this medication, the cardiologist said, well, you can stop taking it, but you must drink 2 glasses of red wine with every meal.
Really? That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. So how did you, when you left, you said you were in Devon, I think. How did you choose Bergerac of all places?
We spent about 4 summers searching for the place, and ended up on when I was about 60, we found this place, and but we looked at all sorts of other places before that, and it was kind of a bit of a cliche because we were trying to avoid being Brits in the Dordogne, because there are lots of Brits in the Dordogne, and there's an invasion of British people, but because the Aquitaine and Dordogne is very much historically got huge associations with the UK. Right. Indeed, it was English for 300 years before it was French.
Yeah. I remember driving around the Dordogne, and you would always see flags and signs that said Richard the Lionhearted was here.
Yes. That exactly. And but once because we knew it a bit from before, but once we came back and looked seriously, there's every reason to be here, because it's all the limestone slopes like you can see behind me. All the vineyards in our area are roughly the same size, so we cooperate over lots of things like sharing machinery.
Oh, okay.
It's a terrific place to be a middle-sized vineyard, whereas if we were in Saint-Emilion, it would be too precious, and they don't have any room for wildlife in Saint-Emilion because the land is worth so much. Yeah. And if we were somewhere near a cohort, then there wouldn't be so many vineyards. So all the wonderful facilities like the laboratories, they wouldn't be there. So this is perfect.
That's very interesting that you say that, because it is, I see it, I mean, they call, I guess you are considered part of the Dordogne, but I see it kind of as just between Bordeaux and the Dordogne and its own separate thing. And Martin Walker is who introduced me to you when I was talking about biodiversity. And so I just want, so, and he has this series of books, if people don't know it, they're fantastic books about the region. And you're one of his wineries that he's mentioned in the books, right?
He is a wonderful ambassador for the Dordogne, but also we didn't know Martin at all until about 5 years ago. And he came and he tried our wine, and he then put it in. Humphrey's rocking the phone with his foot. He then put it into one of his books, the Taste for Vengeance book, where his detective Bruno, who is lovely in all sorts of ways, he came and he decided that Humphrey's wine was one of his favorites. But the trouble for Bruno is he can't say Humphrey's name. He says Humphrey. Anyway, the very exciting thing 2 weeks ago was Martin Walker came back for a visit, because he comes every year to try the new wines. And he brought with him the original who was the policeman from Saint-Denis, Raymond.
Yeah, that was in the Times, in that article. I saw him. That's awesome. So you met him. I love it.
Yeah, we were thrilled.
And he was very generous at one.
He is always just giving of himself. It's incredible how he's such a good supporter and ambassador for all of you guys. Absolutely. Can you talk about just briefly Bergerac in general for people who don't know about Bergerac, and then your estate, what grapes you grow, how big it is, and maybe some history of the estate? Okay,
so start from your last question first. It's been a vineyard here, we know, 300 years, and so 1722. And so Bergerac and Bordeaux were for centuries the same area.
In wine terms.
In wine terms. The they fell out in 1907, and so Bergerac made probably the stupid decision to move out on its own. It's all to do with Edward III of England having granted the Dordogne privileges that the didn't have. And so anyway, it's all about early export of wine through Libourne and Bordeaux, but apparently the Edward III Charter favoured Bergerac over Bordeaux, and the Bordeaux didn't like that. So, but essentially, it's the same soils, the same microclimates, and the same typical wine. So
you have to grow the same varieties of grape. So
Right.
blends are of those grapes, you know, Merlot, Cab Sauv, Cab Franc, etc.
As if we in our wines made on the limestone slopes are very similar, some very, very expensive wines in Saint-Emilion. So where ours are €12 a bottle, Saint-Emilion they'll be 50 or 60 or 70 or even unobtainable. So, but on the other hand, here our land is cheaper. Things are not so pressured, and I would much rather be living here, making wine here, and selling all of our wine at a somewhat low price, rather than at a very high price and having to deal with all that sort of being in Saint-Emilion.
Your question on is really Bergerac having the Dordogne River, and so in this before the railways, the wood would come down river from the upper Dordogne.
Okay.
Then they would ship everything down to Bergerac and then gradually down to Bordeaux. So some of it went down, little rough boats out of it and into firewood in Bordeaux for heating. But Bergerac was a very wealthy town in its own right, just because it was such a great hub for trading. But then the two things that happened really, one, the railway came in and it made the river much less important because everything could move around without the river, and all the barges and their families lost their living. But also Bordeaux began to realize that actually the wine from Bergerac was just as good. But their wine out much quicker.
I think we're back, Sue. I'm sorry. I missed that last little bit that you said about after the railroads.
Oh, yeah. Well, so then Bordeaux realized that as a port city, it could ship its wine out to the rest of the world much more quickly than Bergerac. And so basically they began to take over, and they were very good at marketing and everything. They really became much more famous at that point.
That's a fascinating story. Go ahead, Humphrey.
Generally in southwest France, the rivers were so important. Like Armagnac and Cognac, both became places that distilled their wine because the transport links from Armagnac and Cognac were very poor, and in Cognac's case, the rivers were very small, whereas up here they're large. And that you could ship stuff down river, and the oak from the mountains made beautiful barrels.
Oh yeah, and that.
Yeah.
And we
So
still have it.
How old you said
on the mountains?
You still have what?
Our oak barrels still come from oak from the Dordogne area.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So your estate, how big is it, and what grapes do you grow? And you said that it's 300 years old. Oh, Chloe, I would love to go to Bergerac with you guys. It's the most gorgeous place.
So, should I talk in acres or hectares?
Hectares is
probably
fine.
easier
Hectares is fine.
a US audience. Okay, so the whole place is about 35 hectares, and
Oh,
half of it is vines, or 15 hectares is vines, and then the rest is woodland and and meadows. And so we have a
okay.
beautiful environment in the sense. Our vineyard is a kind of island amidst an ecological, very rich ecological area, and we can afford to have managed the and the meadows for nature conservation. And we have, for instance, 17 or 18 species of wild orchid.
I must just get the pictures off because I brought some of the pictures just up to show
Well,
you.
Sue, I grabbed them from your Instagram, Sue, and I can put them up here, and they'll show bigger while we can still look at you.
That's very. I'm just.
Wow.
Oh, good. Well, that'll be better, but I'm just showing off anyway because they are so amazing.
Lots of.
Mm.
And it's a therapeutic. We can use the whatever chemicals we use to make sure that they're the absolute very healthy wildlife.
But so I want to back up a little bit because first of all, you're are you in Sosiniac, I think?
Sorry, we lost them.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Right. I'm having a data issue for a moment. There we go. I think we're back. So the first time I'd ever heard of this orchids up in the Dordogne, my friend in Bordeaux said that you could take a day drive. It's only an hour or two from Bordeaux to drive up into the valley, and you can go. They would go flower hunting. And then I posted last night some pictures of a book series. It's kind of a murder mystery, but there was some orchid hunters there, and it's really fascinating. And then Martin told me that because you guys encourage biodiversity, you grow orchids, and Carol Feely told me that orchids are a sign of vineyard health. So can you talk a little bit more about what you do to encourage biodiversity? And then you said 17 different types of orchids. You put a lot of the pictures on your Instagram, and I tried showing it here, but when you do it live, it chops it off. But this is a picture on the lower left of an orchid, and then you see the vines in the background. So it really is a good sign of your health of your vineyards.
Okay, well, the orchids, we don't even grow them. They grow themselves because they're all wild. And it's more a case of what you mustn't do. So we don't any artificial fertilizer. We're very careful not to mow the grass at the wrong time. So when the orchids are flowering and the other wildflowers, we don't mow that grass until much later in the summer. And that sort of management takes a lot of thought for Humphrey, who is trying to look after the vines for the best, and also balancing that with obviously orchids or wildflowers. You could say are weeds, but actually you want to encourage the weeds insofar as they're really cool things, but you don't want them to start vines badly. And the other thing is our symbol on our wine is a hare. And that is because we have lots of hares here. And hares, if you like, are at the top of the...
Hares are at the top of the what? Oh.
And also simply that the baby hares
system for a place like this. So if it's very neat, so if you went over to say Saint-Emilion and it's all the vines have notes in, it's weed free, and all the grass is very, very mowed, so it's very neat looking, But if you were a hare, there would be nowhere to be and nothing to eat. So it will look beautiful and everyone will say, what a beautiful, neat vineyard. But actually, in wildlife terms, it's a disaster.
And we have a lot of raptors overhead. So we have black kites and buzzards and
there's some
things like that. So if we don't provide hiding places for the baby hare, they'll just be wiped out very quickly. So I don't mow. So I don't mow the grass in the vines. If I do mow, I leave every other hares have somewhere to go. And I always keep, if I'm driving a tractor, I always try and make. I did have a guy working for us who speaking that has.
So when I'm still here. I'm the data. It's coming in and out, but I'm just trying to show another picture. So does exactly the same flower, like if you mow it and the roots are still there, will the same actual plant come back, or they just spontaneously like live underground until their time to come up? And is the temperature an issue? Like this wouldn't happen down in the Roussillon, would it? Oh, right.
Yes, they have lots of orchids down there, but not all the same orchids. So in the Roussillon, there will be less butterfly orchids, less lady orchids, and no laxiflora orchids because they like very damp
there's a friend of mine, Chloe Flowers, a piano player, and then my friend of mine in the Roussillon. We're all like chatting. We're going to come visit. So
because
start
it's hotter
getting
and
ready
drier.
for that. That's right.
Oh, that would be so exciting.
Yeah.
We really missed a lot of my
Humphrey, can you
family
talk to
live
us
in New
about
York, so it's really sad. My great niece is visiting with us right
for sure.
now, but of course
we're data
she
dragging again.
So it's very. But we're really looking forward to.
We're back. Humphrey, can you tell us a little bit more about which grapes you grow and what wines you make if you have different cuvées from different blends? Okay.
Right. So we start with the top end, which is the Sauvignon. We have Cabernet Franc, which is Carbonero. Other people know it as, and it's much better known as that. But it's a really interesting grape to grow, but it's quite challenging. So I don't think I make a good wine from Cabernet Franc every second year, I guess. And I won prizes with it. And then the bulk wine, the more bulk wine is the Merlot. We have a few of various other things, but basically that's it for the reds. For the
rosé,
rosé. For the rosé,
Yeah.
the rosé I make from unusually from saignée. Do you know what I mean by saignée? Where you draw the juice from a red tank in the morning after you've filled it, and then that comes from Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. I don't use Cabernet Franc because it has a slightly yellow tone, orangey tone I don't like. Then we make a whole. So there's a Côte de Bergerac Rouge, a Bergerac Rouge from the reds, and the best ones of those tend to go into barrels, and then I age for about 9 months in French oak barrels, bottle and keep for a while. And I think I've won Hachette Awards from Guy Hachette, nearly all our oak wines. So then moving on to the whites, we make a demi-sec from Semillon, which mostly gets exported to Holland and Belgium. Very
Okay.
very good. It's a Moliere in French. I don't. A client for wine at home don't really like that, and so I sell that all in bulk for export. Then a dry white, Bergerac sec, and then there's the kind of quick.
Sauvignon Blanc
It depends on the year. Sometimes it's Sauvignon Blanc based, sometimes it's Semillon based. Just depends on what's good. And then the final, the start of it is the liquor. There's a tiny appellation Sauvignac. It's 16 producers in 4 Paris, and we make a dessert wine that's this exactly the same quality criteria as the Sauterne. And in one of the guidebooks, it's quite funny. We end up being Sauterne Sauvignac listed
awesome.
as
So if it's sweet,
one's a 3-star.
like you're the Botrytis wine, it's only Sauvignac, and Sauvignac is all sweet.
Only 4 stars.
Is that correct? Right.
Yeah, I mean the ones labelled. So there are lots of other wines, Sauvignac Appellation, but all the Bergerac wines I've described.
Gotcha.
But the Sauvignac itself is only listed as the late harvest wine, and it's a tiny quantities. I mean, it's sort of some years it's 50,000 bottles, sometimes it's between all of us. Sometimes, I mean, like years with us, it's been 0 because it's poured with rain before they're fully ripe, and then they get washed out. Or another year, the birds and the deer were very hungry, so the deer and the birds ate most of it before it started raining.
And which of those wines was the one that Martin mentioned in the book?
I don't think I could ever make my living from growing Sauvignac, but it's lovely for people when it works. He really likes the Côte de Bergerac, and he red. Yeah, and he did us a huge favour by he reviewed it saying it's the best red wine he'd ever tasted under €10, which was lovely at the time because it was €9, and therefore I could. But then I realised actually it was worth rather more after a lot of debate between Sue and myself. And actually with Martin, I said, look, I'm going to have to chuck your review.
Yeah,
it needs to be €12.
You put the little ellipses and take that under €10 out.
He agreed. So it was the best one.
So I'm going to post in my stories a couple of his books, and that was
under €10.
Vengeance. I can't remember the exact title you said, Sue. Taste of Vengeance. Okay, but the thing I like about his books, Taste for Vengeance. The thing I like about his book is there's a book on the wine. There's it's a murder mystery each one, but one focused on wine, one focused on truffles, one focused on the caves, and it's fascinating to learn about the region too. I will let you guys go. We're almost at a half an hour, but again, Sue, can you tell me what this? Can you see the picture here? What orchid this is right now? Oof. And then what's that? Okay.
Yeah, that's a lizard orchid,
one, right?
And it's a lizard orchid because
I think it's the same one.
Bee orchid. So that's back to the lizard orchid, and that one I can't barely see, but that's the same one. So exciting ones is butterfly. Yeah, one. But the lizard
I see that. Okay.
Very exciting.
And again,
really
just for a reminder that people
to
tuned in, I'm fascinated by orchids, and Martin Walker referred me to you because you're really focused on biodiversity. And you said, Humphrey, it's things you don't do, like you don't mow, but your farming practices encourage all this biodiversity. And then do you encourage like bats and other bugs and stuff in the vineyard? Oh.
Yes, I mean the one of the bizarre things that we use much less toxic chemicals than the organic movement suggests we should. And so one of the things is that the insecticide that everybody in France is legally obliged to use, I can find insecticide that kills almost nothing other than the target, whereas people are spraying overall insecticides that kill everything, which are quite unnecessary in these circumstances. So we belong to a movement called lutte raisonnée, which means the rational battle. So if you think about every time you do something, just try and work out whether it's the least damaging thing you can do. I mean, very occasionally, a little use of a little herbicide is better than 20 times running through mechanically, because it uses less diesel and is less. So being low carbon and very low dosage is quite a lot of extra hard work, and it also needs a lot of thinking about. But it's quite ironic for European view of the States that actually
that's really interesting.
Organic rules in the United States are actually, in my view, more sensible than the European ones, and they're actually more strict in many respects. It's very, very, very surprising when I found that out. And there's an article in one of our handbooks of pesticide usage, and it's kind of ranks all the different standards. But there's very much bound in the kind of old-fashioned view of if you've always done it, it's okay. Exactly. Which you always spray copper and sulfur.
Well, I have to go because I'm back on at 11. I'm going to go down to Lestevenie in Bordeaux for Cassastin. So anybody that's here and can come back at 11 to watch, please do. But for more about the orchids and the flowers, Sue keeps a really nice blog on the website that is linked in your bio. And keep taking pictures for us. The orchid pictures are so lovely. I think it's great. Did I miss anything that you want to tell us? Do you want to tell us anything else before we go? The comments, you know what?
I'm going to quick do a screenshot of them. Is there any way to see, like, do you have
and then I will send that to you
that I can see?
Because when Chloe Flower comes, you need to prepare for that, and you might need to get a grand piano for her, but she'll probably bring one on her own.
That'd be great. That'd be useful.
I am. Yes.
Okay.
She's amazing. I do too. I hope you let us. I hope. Well, you and the French government is what I mean. But we're coming. We're coming.
That's great. Well, I hope you guys.
I'm going to talk to you again, and it's been really fun. Thank you so much. And I have to thank Martin for introducing us. You guys have a really lovely day, and I hope you get some rain soon.
Well,
bye-bye.
Thanks for inviting